program. Very, very significant for the region. You would all know that BAE Systems have been selected as the, if you like, the regional hub for the F-35. And what I mean by that is not just the organic capability we have in the ADF, but passing forces that come through, as well as other Southeast Asian nations. So you could probably think of Japan, Singapore, US Marines, US Navy. As into that piece, and they are effectively the support hub, the logistics support hub, as well as the sustainability hub while in the region. Again, I don't have exact numbers, but I know that we can step through that, and I'm sure Gary will have a feel for that once he's spoken to BAE. But it'll be significant numbers in the order of 20 or 30 staff required, not only engineers but in the supply chain. There's another program called Loyal Wingman that Boeing Systems Australia are running, and you would have seen it on the news, which is essentially the unmanned aerial vehicle supporting the air combat capability of the ADF. I don't know exactly how many we will buy, and I don't want to predicate that, but my sense is if the ADF decides to buy it or Defence decides to buy it, which I think they will, we're going to be looking at about 30 to 40 aircraft here at Williamtown supporting the F-35 fleet. I won't go into the detail of what they do, but it will be sustainment and operating of that aircraft. So it will only be engineering as well as supply chain, but you may find operators in that sort of context, which will be civilian operators. The other thing is we're doing here is we have a simulation alliance. So there are a number of companies in this region, read about 7 of them, that win probably 60 to 70% of the simulation work and virtual reality that goes in behind the combat capabilities we buy in defence. Not only Air Force, but in the maritime and also in the land domain, and certainly in the cyber and space domains as we evolve. So we have formed an alliance here with a view to sort of, I suppose, postulating the Hunter as the go-to region for a vast majority of that simulation work. And all the young men and women we are looking to attract out of school, clearly for we oldies on the scene, it hasn't been something we grew up with, but they live and breathe virtual reality and that simulation work. A great opportunity in that context. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be located out at the Williamtown Air Force Base, but certainly it will be a regional support capability that we are going to require young guys and girls to actually be part of that piece. Lastly, I'll just talk to you a little bit about the submarines. You would have all heard the discussion and the decision on the nuclear submarines. Not only submarines, but an East Coast basing. So the RDA, the RAN are looking for and working with the federal government on an East Coast basing option in terms of support and sustainment. There's not a lot of capability in terms of a port that is suitable for submarine support, but Newcastle is one of them, so we are making a big push for that. Now, there's no doubt they're going to be built in South Australia, but we're going to have a number of these newer submarines, and whatever we lease in the upcoming 4 to 5 years, while the newer ones are built, a sustainment capability on the East Coast. We're working that process hard, no guarantees, but we are looking at the Port of Newcastle and doing a body of work in that context. Now, clearly there'll be numbers of other smaller projects and subcontracting opportunities that sit around those main things I've just talked about, but that essentially is a regional, if you like, view of where we sit right at the moment and what we'll be looking to do over the next half to 1 decade as in terms of getting us set up. That's my 5 minutes worth. I hope that's given you a reasonably good feel for what we have and what we are working through here with the major primes and obviously with subcontracting opportunities. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Every time I hear you talk about this, it astounds me the scale of it. It's very exciting. Thanks, Tim. Just before we start onto our presentation, just a little bit of housekeeping. If everybody could just have their microphones turned off for the presentation. There is a chat pod available. If you have questions, please either write your questions in the chat pod or save them for the end of the presentation, where we're very happy to take questions. The presentation is being recorded today, so if you would like a copy of the recording, please let us know and we're very happy to share that with you or any of your colleagues. I'm just going to share my screen. If you just wait a minute, I would like to introduce to you Rick Evans from Regional Development Australia. What we're going to do now is explain to you the concept of the traineeship program. There's three distinct parts, and we're going to walk you through those three distinct parts. The first part is the REAP component of the program, which is the training services component, which is working with the schools to generate interest and identify students that are suitable to apply. We then move on to the employment component, which is the traineeship component, which sits with HunterNet. And then we move on to the qualification component, which is sitting with TAFE New South Wales. So I'll hand over to Rick to start that conversation. Rick, thank you.
Thanks, Gary. G'day, everyone. Nice to see some familiar faces on the line. Just a big shout out to Dusko as well for sharing the message and coordinating some of your members to be part of the conversation. So thanks, Gary. My name's Rick. I'm the Manager of Skilled Workforce Programs with Regional Development Australia Hunter. Proud to be collaborating with Training Services New South Wales, HunterNet Group Training, TAFE New South Wales, Hunter Defence, Defence New South Wales, and all the parties that are sort of making this, a really terrific program. I manage the ME program, which is a Commonwealth Department of Defence funded program. It's been operating in the Hunter region for 10 years, promoting workforce behind the Defence Force, defence industry contact with high school students, and basically gives us a really good platform to launch into this particular program, which is a really exciting prospect. I'd also like to mention that we have got a few runs on the board running the STEMship, the Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics pre-vocational program over the past years in partnership with state government. And I believe this particular program is a step change on that particular STEMship, and the use of an employer and HunterNet Group Training and a full qualification is a really terrific way to get students interested in the exciting defence industry that Tim's taken you through. So basically the traineeship, we started the conversation a couple of months back, I'd say, Gary, when the announcement for the Western Australian Defence Industry Traineeship model was made by the Commonwealth Government, and it just sort of got us into gear to get this happening. They've got a very, very different industrial makeup to what Tim just suggested. It's a lot of shipbuilding around there. Obviously, in the Hunter in particular, New South Wales is a little bit more broad, but in the Hunter, it's very aviation focused. We do have that simulation cluster that Tim mentioned, and a little bit of land support and quite a lot of manufacturing as well. So the challenge for us was actually coming up with a fairly generic qualification that met that broad range of and full scope of works of our industry partners in the region. That was a challenge, and I think we've met that challenge by bringing in a group training company who can rotate the students around the various host employers to provide students the full scope of works to meet the full qualification. And that qualification is a Certificate 3 in Engineering Technical, and I'll pass on to Karen and Peter shortly just to take you through that a little bit more. So basically, as you can see on the slide there that Gary's put up, there's a number of stages. So we're looking at a Year 12 leaver program. I guess in addition to that, HunterNet is an employer, and they'll be advertising the program to on the open market. So if there are mature age workers that are looking to be employed in this exciting industry, I'm sure HunterNet will give them an opportunity. But we're really focusing on leveraging the ME program and the REAP program through Training Services New South Wales to get the word out to our high school students, in particular our Year 12 leavers, who, as everyone knows, the last couple of years have been quite difficult for those students, and we're really hoping that there's a lot of kids out there that are keen to get into a trade. Basically, so Gary, I think will take you through the immersion program. The ME does, and a lot of the employees on the line, we're collaborating with you with quite a lot. We're promoting defence industry. We're creating that interest. We'll then hand the students over to an enrolment process, and they'll go through a recruitment with Nick at the group training company. We're aiming for a first cohort of 15 students, and once those students are employed, the call to action for today is to look for some host employers that will work with HunterNet Group Training to provide the students the on-the-job learning and the on-the-job mentoring to work in this defence industry. Once they've completed the traineeship, it's a 12-month traineeship. The world is basically their oyster, and we're looking to promote those graduates into further vocational education and training opportunities, possibly university, and I guess the main goal for everyone in the room is employment in defence industry in the Hunter region. I think that's a terrific outcome economically and also sort of socially for high school students coming through the system. So Gary, that's pretty much me. I know there'll be quite a few questions at the end of the session, and I'm happy to answer those questions when we get there. Thanks, Gary.
That's a great overview. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. All right, so what we're going to do now is walk everybody through the 3 stages of the program. I will start with the first stage, and this is REAP. REAP is a New South Wales government initiative that strengthens connections between local industry and secondary school communities and supports students in planning their future career pathways. The REAP initiative is building partnerships between employers and local schools, supporting employers to engage with schools and share their expectations for the future workforce, helping students develop the skills they need to get a job, and strengthening links between what is learned in school and what is needed in the workplace. Jill Williams is with us today as well. There's 4 REAP officers in our region. We manage 132 schools from the south end of the central coast of New South Wales up to as far as the Great Lakes area and out to Scone. And there's 4, as I said, there's 4 of us that manage those 132 schools. The program we've put together is a program of alerting the schools, parents, potential participants and careers advisors. There's an opportunity here for 15 traineeships in the Hunter Defence and engineering industry, but more importantly, our intent here is to set up an ongoing employment pipeline for this industry. We would like to engage with the schools and the students at Year 10 and develop a relationship with the students in the schools, so they actually have an ongoing 2.5-year experience in preparation for when they disengage from school. They have a very clear idea in regards to what is the career path they want to take. They have set up networking, a strong network within the industry, and potentially participated in work experience programs and potentially qualifications. For this particular cohort, obviously with COVID, we've been a little bit challenged in regards to the time frame. So the time frame here is a lot shorter than we will have in 2022. However, I'd just like to walk you through what the planned time frame is and what are some of the actions and experiences we're going to bring to the kids who are interested in applying for this opportunity. In October, we are conducting an information session for all the careers advisors in the 132 schools. So this is to give the careers advisors an overview of what the opportunity is and also talk about what are the emerging industries and emerging opportunities that are happening in this particular space. We are asking the careers advisors at that point to start to market and articulate what this opportunity is. And once they've identified students in their schools, the REAPs will be conducting an information session for students and most importantly parents. Just to give you an indication of the interest in this particular program, we have already started talking to schools, and from 4 schools that we've spoken to over the last week, they've come back to me and identified approximately 30 students who have said they'd be interested in exploring more opportunities in this space. So we're really excited by that level of interest. We will then conduct a career information session presentation from some of the people in this room today. So the industry partners that wish to come on board and explore the opportunity of employing a traineeship engineer in 2022. We'll invite some of the industry in to talk to the parents, to talk about your industry. What are the opportunities? What are the emerging industries? What are the career pathways and potential study pathways for their son or daughter? If at all possible, we would like to conduct some site visits so the participants can get a feel of the type of work environment they would be potentially working in, And if at all possible, once again, depending on COVID and time frame, a level of work experience, so potentially 1 or 2 days on the job where they, again, can have a bit of a taster in regards to what this particular industry has to offer. In January 2022, we're going to be offering through Summer Skills an opportunity for the potential participants to participate in 4 statement of attainments that fall under the guise of Summer Skills, which is fundamentally fee-free training. Most of this training will be conducted by an RTO called Skills Lab, and we will be offering those 4 statement of attainments to any participant who will be thinking about applying for this opportunity. So once again, it's giving them a little bit of more of an insight in regards to the future skills that are required to work in these emerging industries. Once a student finish the Summer Skills program, at that point, REAP then starts to take a step back and we hand the program over to the employer, which in this case is HunterNet. And I'd like to introduce to you Nick Cooper, who will take you through the application process. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Gary, and thanks for the opportunity to come and talk today. It's a very exciting program. And thank you for Tim. I think Tim, you highlighted very well the requirement of skills within the region by way of the amount of volume of work that's coming through investment from all levels of government, and the requirement for skills development. But equally as important is the skills retention for the region, which is what we're all aiming to do in the commencement of this program moving forward. Given that everybody's working at the moment in a time-poor environment, I'll just step through some of the services that we offer, and I'll talk about the recruitment program probably in a little bit more detail. So obviously everyone's a bit time-poor, so what the services that we offer is to give you some support in buying some of that time back. We offer end-to-end onboarding for recruitment. The individuals will go through a 5-step process for us. Some resumes will be sent to yourselves. Obviously, you get to interview the individual, so we think that that's very important. And quality candidates equals quality employees. So we work through that in a very thorough and efficient process for you. We offer all the full inductions. We have a quality team that sits within the organisation that offers mentoring, performance monitoring and management, administration and payroll. All of the statutory obligations are assigned over to HunterNet Group Training by way of all of the wages, the tax, all of the leave accruals, WHS and workers' comp obligations are all assigned to us. So that's something that you don't have to worry about. We also work with TAFE in this case, with the host employer to manage all the requirements and the design of the on and off the job units that they'll be going through in the qualifications, and Karen will talk to that and probably a little bit more broadly. But that is really a consultative process to make sure that the individuals, where required, will stay with you for as long as possible, or if needed, can then also rotate to a different employer to meet the training requirements and get the quality outcomes that we are all trying to achieve. All of this wrapped up is designed to do one thing, which is to let you do what you do best, is focus on your business, and then we can take care of everything else from that point. So as you can see in a couple of the graphics there on that slide, why use our services, and all the services that I've probably touched on briefly down the right-hand side, and then there's some other areas that you may or may not be able to complete, or you wish to assign them over to us to do. So about this further in a one-on-one consultation if required, because everybody's needs will be slightly different. But yeah, if you want to contact us, there's information on the link that went out through the website as well, and yeah, we can take that discussion further. So yeah, thank you very much, Gary.
Thank you, Rick. And just to let everybody know, as of yesterday, HunterNet has released the marketing brochure on LinkedIn. So tonight, if you'd like to have a look at that and share with your network, we'd be most grateful. Thank you, Nick. Right, the last part of the program is something that's very exciting. We've partnered with TAFE New South Wales And TAFE New South Wales have designed a specific program for this traineeship, Certificate 3 in Engineering. And I would like to hand over to Karen Humphreys to explain more about this particular program. Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Gary. So the Cert 3 Engineering Technical is a short one-year traineeship, so a little bit different from the traditional trades that are longer. And the great thing about this, it really does give you an ability to have a person in your workplace for a shorter period of time to get to know how they are actually performing. And whether you want to progress further. And the other side of it we were talking about is that it enables a student to actually secure a place at university if that was the case, and actually defer for a year and work in the workplace while they're under a traineeship. So that's the nice part of the 1 year part of the traineeship. So in general, the skills and knowledge we've tried to, as other people have said, make them quite generic so we can cross across many different types of companies and industries. So what's going to be covered is some data analysis, looking at calculations, teaching everyone the importance of accuracy in the workplace, that it's not, just good enough to slap things up and hope for the best on a graph, that actually, if you say you're doing a graph, that it needs to be accurate, and to talk through that. Communications and report writing and technical writing. We're going to be looking obviously at computer skills. That is including AutoCAD, so there is a drafting or drawing element to this course, which again, as Nick said, if your company can't deliver that, or is that you're not in that space, we can rotate to other companies that can. Interpreting technical drawings, so they can actually pick up a drawing and understand and be able to read that drawing as an engineer. Performing engineering measurements, understanding the different types of measurements that occur, the different types of instrumentation, and getting into that whole precision, accuracy and tolerancing, and for people to understand that. Looking at obviously WHS and environmental sustainability practices within organisations and expanding on that in the workplace. And also looking at the role of their organisations and the policies and procedures that inform the practice of those. And that includes things like understanding the supply chains, customers, suppliers, the quality aspects of an organisation. So it's quite broad. There are 10 units of competency for people who do think about units. So there's 10 units to complete, which are covered in that. Our delivery strategy is going to be reasonably fluid, because as Nick said, we don't necessarily always have this hard start of when everyone is put on straight away. So when the trainees, when they come and they get employed and then enrolled, we will basically have them on a flexible online learning environment to begin with, to start their studies, and then we'll be bringing them together for those whole group sessions. And that's where we're hoping we will have all those people who are together in the different organisations, and some of those conversations can occur about what they're doing in different places. It'll also enable us to have some guest speakers if any of the host companies are wanting to do that, for them to come along and actually talk about some critical aspects to what they do to add to this whole program. There is a commitment to around about 6 hours a week of study for students, and it will depend, of course, on their different abilities. And we will timetable closer to the date, so you as the employers or host employers will know exactly when you need to release your people, or whether or not it's a week where they are able to do flexible learning, so it's going to blend a lot more to what your business needs are at that time. Peter, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that? I saw you put something in the chat pod just then.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. So I'm Peter Schreiner. I'm the industry relationship lead for engineering and manufacturing. I just wanted to mention the Certificate 3 is really a technical qualification that really underpins a lot of the sort of more operational requirements of a company in terms of CAD. There's even touches upon material science and that sort of fundamental understanding of engineering processes, and can very well support an enterprise in some of those support areas, you know, drawing interpretation, knowledge of AS 1100, and sort of those roles to assist in production would very much fit in with a number of companies, and probably aware that a lot of companies are now working on augmented reality, so CAD will fit in very well with that, those skills, but really support them for bigger roles, I think, and also the pathways that stem from the Cert 3 as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Karen. That brings us to the, oops, sorry everybody, that was me. That brings us to the end of the overview of the program. I just want to just before I hand over to question and answers, I just want to reinforce that the intention of this program is to set up an employment pipeline. So we want to be able to support your business and support the industry, and want to make sure that we have a really strong strategy in place to ensure that we have a job creation investment embedded in regards to planning with our school sector to ensure our students are selecting the right subjects for their subject selection, participating in work experience opportunities, and ensuring that the people that are attracted to your industry are best placed to be successful. But also, most importantly, it then you become an employer of choice for these participants. While this is a pilot, our goal is to grow this program so we do have a large workforce coming through year in, year out. And if you look at it like this, consider it as a 2.5 year interview process for the industry. You'll have access to these people for 2.5 years in readiness for when they disengage from school. And like I said, that's a fantastic opportunity to ensure that you're employing the people that best know your culture and have the skill sets and the knowledge required. I'm going to hand over to questions. Tim's got his hand up, but just before we go and open up to questions, there's a lot of information here today, and there were some industry partners that could not attend. We are going to be running a second information session in late October. We will re-invite everybody who has attended today to that session, and if you have anybody else in the organisation that you think would be valuable for them to join, they'd be most welcome. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I'm going to hand over to Tim first, and then we'll start to open up to questions and answers. Tim.
Thanks, Gary. I thought I might just add, folks, this is not about students, this is about your businesses. I don't know whether I haven't really spoken to a lot of you as a business direct, but Australian industry content, for the people who are already in the defence space, would know what AIC is about. We're going through some major changes in terms of how we contract and the organic capability that resides within within, if you like, Australia. I think COVID has shown that, you know, I shouldn't say we've only just gone through a pandemic, but a lot of you would know the logistics support chain, you know, where we have relied on overseas suppliers, particularly in some of the higher end defence industries, has been very, very difficult. So there's a major push by government and very much in a bipartisan sense to grow Australian industry again. It's better late than never, and I know I could see Liz, you know, nodding her head wisely from Blue Zone here, that there is a major push in AIC. So this, you know, what it means though for all of you, there's more opportunity than probably there has ever been in a subcontracting type sense, but also directly for defence contracts. So, you know, it's good news for defence industry and for industry and manufacturers generally in Australia. I thought I'd just add that in, mate.
Great, thanks, Tim. Wonderful. All right, so we've got some questions in the chat pod, so I'll start with these, although some of them have been asked. And if you've got questions, just put your hand up and we can make sure we can, I can direct those questions to the right people. Hamish has asked the question, will the trainee be 5 days a week or at work or attending TAFE requirements during work hours? Nick and Karen, do you want to answer that from an employer point of view, and Karen from an RTO point of view, please?
Yep, sure, thanks, Gary. So as the timetabling is sort of yet to be designed formally, and from conversations with this group earlier on, at this stage there would be a component of online delivery at work, then also with the capability to be attending TAFE at certain times when that timetable is designed. So the 6 hours per week doesn't necessarily need to align the same as with like a traditional apprenticeship where it is day release for 6 hours. It would just mean that there would be an allotment of 6 hours to be learned during that period.
Great. So there's a great deal of flexibility, Nick. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Hamish? Yep. Hamish is typing. Yes, thanks. Great. Nick's got his hand. Rick's got his hand up.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, just wanted to expand on Nick's answer, and there is potential to employ a trainee at part-time at 21 hours per week as well. So it doesn't need to be a full 38-hour week that you need to commit to. So there is that option which can potentially extend the traineeship term out as well.
Good point. Thank you, Rick. Are there any other questions? Does anybody would like to put their hand up? Well, we've done our job well, boys. Karen, well done. Rick, did you want to just speak to the next stage of this, and if we have industry partners in today that would like to register their interest with absolutely no commitment, it's just registering your interest in regards to possibly interviewing or going to the next stage early next year? Can I hand over to you, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So the again, we'll be posting a date for the second webinar. You have my contact details. Feel free to reach out, and I can direct them to any of the project team. I guess the next step, Gary sort of has the supply covered, so the students are coming through thick and fast, which is terrific. What our call to action is, we're asking for host employers to be part of the program, and for that, I'll hand over to Nick to pass over on your details.
Thank you. Yeah, the next stage here, in answer to the call to action, as you refer to, Rick, would be to, if you do want that one-on-one consultation and to talk about this program in a bit more detail. As it was on one of those slides, we do have the email address goes to our generic in the office, and we'll we will disperse those inquiries to the team, and we'll have someone out to you very, very quickly. But completely appreciate that. Yeah, if you want a one-on-one, just give us a yell, and we'll come out to see you.
Thank you, Nick. All right, if we don't have any more questions. Hamish is typing. Wait a sec. It might be a question. I would like to thank everybody for joining us today. We are so grateful that you've come to listen to what we're proposing. If you have any suggestions or recommendations to add value to the program, we'd be very grateful to hear from you. Highly recommend that you contact Nick in regards to in exploring taking on a traineeship for next year. And we will be sending the link to the next information session to everybody in this group in the coming week. Nick, sorry, is that a hand, Nick, or is that a, yep.
I just want to touch on obviously this is a relatively new program to the region in a very diverse industry. And I just wanted to add that there are government subsidies available through the Boosting Apprenticeship Commencement program, and then obviously then for the completing apprenticeship commencement programs available, which as a GTO, we are obliged to hand over 100% to the host employer. So that is in support for your participation, not only in this program, but for any apprenticeship or traineeship. But so that's available should you want to participate with us.
Thank you, Nick. All right, on behalf of